Rob participated in every audition and, as he lived with her and was getting married to her soon, he would undoubtedly do better if she were hired. When we were practicing the improvs for all the suits, was I truly the funniest person in the room? Hollywood filled the void left by Rob Reiner and his wife's deaths with tributes, condolences, and judicial proceedings as they all looked for answers. However, one individual was already aware of what was hidden beneath the surface. Sally Struthers. Not only was she a past co-star. Behind the scenes on All in the Family, Rob confided in her. She took action to stop the online rumors because of this. Her shocking revelations closely resemble what Tom Cruise has subtly confirmed, elevating rumors to a far more unsettling level. Sally had no intention of speaking in front of an audience. She showed up without a prepared statement or a publicist. She froze in response to a reporter's casual question about how she was handling things, whispering, "You don't know what he was living through." She then raised her head and said the words, "We failed him." The story that everyone had been following fell apart in that moment. She and Rob remained close for over 50 years. Several times a week, sometimes late at night, they spoke. Rob started phoning her after midnight in his last months, just to hang up a few seconds later. "I can't talk long," he snapped when she approached him. "He pays attention." And hung up. Everything was altered by that one sentence. Sally had lunch with Rob in Santa Monica 3 weeks before to his passing. She told how he refused to sit with his back to the room, picked a corner table, and arrived early. He winced when his phone buzzed. So forcefully that he toppled his glass of water. "Who's got you this scared?" Sally inquired, somewhat in jest. In a low voice, Rob added, "If I say it out loud, it becomes real." He said, "Promise me," a few moments later. "You'll be honest if something goes wrong." Sally acknowledged. Sally acknowledged that her quiet was finally broken by that commitment. Everything was reframed by what Sally went on to say. The house changed before Rob, according to Sally. The Brentwood property had always been bustling with political discussions, dinner parties, and unexpected visits from friends. All of a sudden, guests were no longer welcome. Even with friends he had known for decades, Rob started to insist on advance notice. "I need to know who's coming," he snapped in response to Sally's question about why. "I require time." It sounded more like preparing for danger than hospitality, she remembered. The atmosphere within the house had become stuffy. Sally recounted how, despite the fact that it was only noon, she entered one afternoon and saw that every blind was drawn. Rob took hold of her wrist as she went for one and muttered, "Please don't." Michelle spoke softly in the kitchen, as though the walls might hear her. Sally once heard voices above. "Nick is yelling, claiming that his parents interrupted him and demanding money." Rob made an effort to soothe him. He begged, "Lower your voice," Nick retaliated. "Or what? You're going to call the police on your own son?" It became more difficult to ignore the bodily indicators. In August, Rob wore a long-sleeved shirt to a charity gathering. Doctor's orders. Rob forced a smile as a coworker made a joke about the heat. Sally saw bruising close to his wristwatch a few days later. He responded too fast when she asked what had happened. "Upstairs. I'm awkward now." As he talked, his hands trembled. Later, Michelle told Sally that she had started closing the door to her bedroom at night. "I hate that sound," she said. Footsteps in the corridor. What was once a sign of achievement had turned into a prison. Danger was no longer kept out by the gates. They bottled up their terror. The shock that altered the story's scope then arrived. Sally claims that Cruise visited the Reiner residence in November while claiming to be talking about a potential project. He entered a much darker place. Voices raised reverberated in the corridor. Michelle was in tears. Nick was requesting access to money that had been locked away while pacing agitatedly. According to reports, Cruise intervened when Nick rushed forward and yelled, "You don't get to control me anymore." There was silence in the room. Cruise later used scary language to describe Nick's behavior to a close associate. He said his eyes were empty. No hesitancy, no guilt. Cruz dragged Rob away from the home and into the backyard that same day. His remarks remained firm. His words, "You are in danger here, this can no longer be handled. If at all possible, you need distance tonight." Rob was clearly shaken as he shook his head. "He's sick," which he answered. "If I turn my back now, I lose him forever." Few could turn down the opportunity that came next. Cruz suggested funding a top-tier, fully supervised, secure rehabilitation center abroad. "I'll take care of everything," he demanded. "Let me, please." Rob rejected, but thanked him. Rob muttered, "If I force him, I'll never be forgiven by him." Sally subsequently claimed that when she heard that sentence, it broke her heart. Rob continued to think that forgiveness could penetrate areas where fear had already taken hold. Cruz continued to communicate with Rob in the weeks following that altercation, pleading with him to change his mind. The urgency of text messages is growing. One read, "Please, and take this seriously." Rob's responses became more brief. "We're getting by. Now it's more peaceful," he assured me. Every communication seemed to be a negotiation between optimism and reality. That identical pattern persisted on the last night. Rob didn't make a police call. He made touch with a private security company, requesting assistance in defusing the situation. Call logs show that he minimized the seriousness. He never expressed fear. He never claimed that lives were in danger. Sally thinks that decision sealed the deal. Her voice broke as she said, "Even then, he was attempting to shield his son from the repercussions." After learning of the fatalities, Tom Cruise allegedly fell silent. He later mentioned one thing to pals that has plagued everyone. "He chose love against my warning." That warning now represents the point at which things could have changed but didn't, but it's not the end. Sally Struthers' final revelation was the one that Hollywood had been avoiding for decades. "No one perceived the threat," she claimed, "so it wasn't concealed. Too many people didn't want to name it, so it was hidden." Rob's abrupt cancellations were observed by the agents. Attorneys were aware of strange financial transactions. While treating injuries, doctors did not inquire as to how they occurred. Silence piled on top of silence until the situation was unsolvable. Sally stated plainly, people knew something was wrong. Simply put, they didn't want to say it aloud. She talked of having a private phone conversation with a seasoned business executive who advised her to be silent. "This will destroy everything people believe about him," the speaker cautioned. In response, Sally said, "He was being destroyed while you protected an image." Instead of focusing on violence, another buddy proposed presenting the event as a family tragedy. Sally declined. "Tragedy leaves no fingerprints," she retorted. "Violence does." Later, patterns that had been ignored for years, recurrent visits reported as accidents, financial records revealing unexpected payments to middlemen, and emails begging for patience instead of intervention startled investigators. Sally revealed that following a legal consultation, Rob once confided in her. He added sourly, "They told me to document everything. I informed them that I had no desire for a case. I want my son to return." It was a choice that could have saved his life. The role of Michelle Reiner also became increasingly apparent. She wasn't docile. She was worn out. Michelle had asked a therapist if parents could be legally shielded from their own adult children, Sally disclosed. The reaction was slow, methodical, and careful. Michelle allegedly stated, "We'll be gone by the time the system moves." Sally claimed that after hearing the punishment, she was unable to forget it. When detectives rebuilt the timeframe following the deaths, the most unsettling realization emerged. The cycle of violence was well known. Pressure, escalation, assurance, and apology. Sally maintained that this was not rash. She claimed he knew when to be cool. He was aware of when to wait. According to reports, investigators discovered messages demonstrating intentional timing. Conflicts started when seclusion was certain and outside assistance was least likely to step in. Hollywood's unwillingness to use the term contributed to the damage. In whispers, domestic violence was reframed as family disintegration or mental health issues. Sally completely disapproved of that wording. "We wouldn't think twice about calling this what it was," she remarked, "if Rob were a woman." Her remarks struck a deep chord because they imposed an awkward reality. Men are not protected from abuse by their reputation, fortune, or power, nor are they justified in remaining silent when it occurs. Sally didn't change Rob Reiner's legacy by speaking. She explained. He wasn't weak in his last act. It was unreasonable love. He wasn't thinking like a director or a public figure. He had the mindset of a father who thought that patience was still possible. He lost everything because of his belief. Sally made it impossible to disregard that reality, even though the industry may find it difficult to accept. Rob Reiner's death was not symbolic. He passed away like a human. Hollywood is no longer able to ignore this reality. When it was eventually too late to save him, Sally as CRS broke the stillness. What's left is a reality that compels us to examine the lives we believe.